I wanted to show everybody. I did a couple of graphics yesterday. A lot of you will already know this if you've been coming to my shows, but we've kind of like water flows to where it needs to be, right? And I feel like when like my life is kind of that way. You just throw enough time at something, and then like the best way to do it will kind of manifest itself over time. And good morning, everybody that just came in. Munty, Lori, Book Lover, Mason, Patrick. I recognize most of your names. There won't be any selling. This is more of like a talky, community thing. There are some books in the buy nows. They're like orphan books, parts of series, trade editions, popular authors. I'm going to try. That thing is, you'll see it grow every single time we come in here. I'm trying to add about 10, 15, 20 books. So a lot of it will be the same. I tried to make it very easily searchable, by genre, by, Amazon categories, because I know a lot of us are familiar with Amazon, like suspense, thriller, literary fiction, just, all that kind of stuff. And of course by author and title. And actually I put in the, if it's part of a larger like universe, or even if it's like part of a larger series like James Patterson and the Alex Cross series, I will put like it's Alex Cross and it's this book in whatever it is. Or if it's a Rick Riordan, I added a bunch of Rick Riordan in there since yesterday, because it's all orphan sets, because I leave no book left behind. So I'll even grab the orphans knowing somebody's out there, and I'll just let them sit in my little outside space. But anyway, back to this. And I'll have to say that a bunch of times as people come in and out. But so I've been doing this for a while, and we've been kind of doing like a Friday to Saturday night auction. Kind of, it's either falling on those 2 days where it's kind of multi-genre, sci-fi, horror, like romantasy, book talk type books, and then classics and whatever else might find cool. Because I source every week, and I've been using that show to kind of give everyone in the whatnot verse like first crack at the stuff before it kind of filters out to the other like vehicles, because we have antique malls, and not malls plural, we have a booth, to be clear. So anyway, I decided to make some graphics. I thought this graphic was pretty cool, and I have a background, in my previous non-Steve Book Guy life doing this kind of stuff. So this is going to be the graphic for that show. That was so many words to say. Look at the graphic. Ain't it neat? It's for the Friday, Saturday night multi-genre show. I could have just said that. Coffee. You have to bear with me. And also, we're listening to My Morning Jacket this morning. If anybody has like real intense need to listen to something else, like feel free to shout out. This one, with the way that I source books like by the house. And I take them all, regardless of genre. We don't scan on site. So, and I thought I was going to be a chef at one point in my life. It was one of my many hyper focuses where I did not become a chef. I am still a great cook, and my kids love me for it. But I sell cookbooks, and we do a whole like show dedicated to cookbooks, and we've got one of those coming up. I haven't quite hit this 200 individual lot yet, but I'm on the way, and I've got more like it's today's agenda to hit that 200 cap. So before we got going on the other stuff, I wanted to show you some neat graphics. It's been a while since I've made anything like this. And so, yeah, super fun. So what are we doing today? I should have pulled this up already, but I didn't. We are list shit fast. Have you guys ever seen what it looks like? I'll show you guys real quick. For those of you that may not sell, and if you ever wondered, like, one of the ways I'm able to like get so many listings up there, not that I do like a ton, but this is what the CSV looks like that they give you on the back end, where you can, let me show you the whole thing, where you just put in all this stuff and then you upload it, and then what it does is it loads it all up into your drafts, and then you can just take your phone and you just blast out the photos like an assembly line. So I thought that was neat while we're here, but this is the one we're looking for. And good morning. How you guys doing? It's was it Wednesday? Today's Wednesday, right? It is my wife's birthday. She's 45 today. So that's pretty fun. Thank you for picking that up. I think that's you, Lori. Yep. Appreciate you. We are looking at author sell-throughs. One thing I'm going to do, guys, is I'm recording these, and I'm going to put these on YouTube, and I'm going to once I get the first YouTube video done, in that video I'm gonna have a link to this. It'll be read only, but so that way everyone can have access to this list. And if this is your first time here, what we're doing is I go to the Goodwill bins a lot. And I have to beat the scanners because I don't do the scan, like beep, beep. I don't do this stuff. I want to see it on site. So I'm a huge data nerd. And I want to know the sell-through rates. Like, how fast does Stephen King sell for real? like I know he sells well, but what does that mean, like, mathematically? And how can I, get to a baseline where I can compare apples to apples? And if I if I was playing a game of Would You Rather, I watched that horror movie recently, and I had to choose between Stephen King and Frida McFadden, and they're both like mass market paperbacks, nothing special, If I only had to pick one, counterintuitively, like at least to me, who's a giant Stephen King fan, Frida McFadden, I love you too, but King's the GOAT for me. Still looking for that first edition, first prints, The Stand, if you happen to come across one. But it would be mathematically, if your goal is income, to pick up the Frida McFadden based on this data here. Now, this data isn't like the Bible, you have to take a lot of it in context, and you'll see that as we kind of go through the numbers, but it kind of gives you a baseline to kind of work from. Do you know what I'm saying? At least some sort of comparative, like guide per se. And now again, to be clear, save every book you can, but this would be for like situations like where you're in the Goodwill bins, where it's not conceivable for you to take everything out of the place, or like a thrift store where it's not conceivable for you to pay for the privilege of rehoming every book. I rehome every book I come across, but I have to eat, so I can't. It has to make sense. The math has to math. So that's what the deal is. Then that's what we're doing. And we recorded these and we're throwing these on YouTube. And then of course we do the auctions at night. So I wrote down some authors we haven't done yet. I wanted to do Ian Fleming to kind of start us off with. This is, of course, he's the guy that wrote James Bond. Let's show you the process. All of this data is coming from Terapeak, which is in the back end of eBay. So what we do is we type in the author's name. Last 90 days. We're going to go ahead and hit that. It's just going to bring us a bunch more stuff, and you guys can see that. Okay, let me make it a tad bit smaller. Move it over. Let me move it up there. That's probably easier to see. Okay, I want to make sure you guys can see it. And then we're going to come down to all categories. This is very important. Whenever you're doing data, it's very important to apply the same filters and be working within the same data set. That way you're always comparing apples to apples. If we didn't, then you're not comparing apples to apples. So if you're making decisions in your life based on a database, it's worth taking a moment to figure out, like, how did this data get compiled, to make sure that the data is telling you what it says it's telling you. None of you would be shocked to know that politicians do that very thing and get away with it a lot. So here we go. So there's two ways to do it. There are two book categories, especially for these older authors. We had the antiquarian, and then we have the regular. So we're going to kind of compile. The thought process is that the collectible ones will be like your newer, your reprints and stuff like that. And then down here you can see it says active and sold. Right now we're clicked on active, and then we can kind of see what's selling. The number that I want from this tab is this active listing right here. So roughly about 6,000. And again, this doesn't have to be like exact, right? We're just using it for a guideline, to quote, this is from that we're doing a cookbook. This is a cookbook that we've got in the auction coming up, but that wasn't the tab I wanted. Where's the tab I wanted? Here? No. Oh, here. I lost my train of thought. So then we're going to come over to so I'll just move on. And while we're here, this is kind of where you can sort by price here, and then you can just see kind of all of the bolos. These are the ones that are active in the non-collectible category. So we're going to come over to sold. And now you guys obviously will know by now, like if you're looking at eBay, looking at solds is the way to go, because that's when money actually has exchanged hands. And we're looking for that number right there. So we got about a 20% sell-through rate, which is pretty good. That's like right up there with Stephen King. It's actually a little bit above Stephen King. No, 20%. There we go. So Ian Fleming's killing it in that regard. But there's also, like, if Stephen King's around that, I shouldn't have wrote baseline there. I don't think I ever looked it up, how many listings. There's not a ton of James Bond stuff on the secondhand market. To kind of put it in context, Tom Clancy has 21,000 listings almost. So, wrong one again. Now, what we need to do, though, because Ian Fleming is definitely an older author, we also need to come over to Antiquarian and Collectible. Excuse me. And this is going to be, let's check active listings. So this is pretty significant. He is an older author, so he's going to have a lot more. So we do need to add this kind of, let's do not just 9,000. And then let's see what his sell-through rate, and we're going to kind of average it. You know, we have to weight, we have to weight the average 2/3 towards the previous percentage, if that makes sense. And he's got about so let's call it like an 18, 17.5, somewhere in that range. Again, it doesn't need to be exact. We're just looking for like anything that's over probably 15% sell-through rate, I'm probably going to try to pick up if I can get it, for next to nothing. But the other thing that's really neat here is when we come over to Antiquarian Collectible, this is probably where his like really crazy stuff. Make sure we're in sold. And this is kind of my favorite part too. This is kind of when we get to go through and see what craziness he's got going on. So Ian Fleming is of James Bond fame, if I've not said that already. So let's look at that first edition. My wife's in there having a good time. It's my wife's birthday today. She's 45. We're going to go to the bins. She wants to go to the bins. So what's this one? First State. We're just going to look a bunch of these. And good morning, everybody. If you guys have a particular author you want me to look up while we're doing this, Ian Fleming was just kind of the one I wanted to start with just because he was on my mind. All right, let's look at this. And, of course, Ian Fleming isn't originally from the States. He's United Kingdom, right? Look at this. Wow. Man, that's pretty. So I guess what are all these? First edition library James Bond complete 14 volumes set. So I guess all these originals came out sealed like this. Is this accurate, or is that something they did after? Or is that like a later print where they kind of just reprinted them? You see what I'm saying? Like, did every one of his first editions come in a box set like that? Or is that something that was reprinted kind of after the fact? Pretty covers, though. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys are book collectors and you know more newer books than older books, I know more older books than newer books. I promise I'll help you learn the older books if you teach me the newer books. Deal? Does that work? So, but if you see anything with Ian Fleming on it, with any sort of age on it, like it's 100% you pick it up. It's one of those things I think like newer readers would appreciate, like some paperbacks, but you're probably going to find more collectors of Ian Fleming than anything else until they make another James Bond movie, and then all of this stuff kind of peaks. And that's an interesting thing to think about. Like, some of these things are like, I'm not suggesting you do this, so like everything with a grain of salt, but it is wild because like, you could buy a bunch of Ian Flemings right now if you knew that in 2 years there would be another movie. Of course, if you had the capital to say, I do not, I would never do this. But like, you know what I'm saying? Then you just like a stock. And then when the movie comes out, all of a sudden demand goes up because everybody is really excited about it, and then sell it then just like you would a stock. But man, yeah, I mean, you would just rather buy a stock or something. To the point, I would tell you what, when COVID first hit in 2020, when everything was going weird, my wife and I, we did make the decision. We were like, we're gonna put all our money in comic books. That's what we did. And I kind of mean that a little bit because the comics were doing pretty good and they were a little bit more consistent. So this is, I guess, a UK edition. Diamonds Are Forever. Never seen that one before. So this one here alone is a $1,200 book. My Lord. That's a cool cover too. So Goldfinger was the one who tried to irradiate Fort Knox, right? Look at that. That is so pretty. So pretty. Look at that cover. It's even on the hardcover. That is rad. I've never seen that. That is cool. Is that pretty? I like it. It's pretty. It's pretty. So anyway. So that's Ian Fleming, of Ian Fleming fame. It's just a lot of here. So $200-$300 first editions, Easton Presses, everything. Here's a Dr. No. So yeah. So also note here that even without the dust jacket, that's still sold for $200. So definitely, I mean, we would always, I mean, obviously if you saw this cover, you pick it up anyway, just because the cover's badass, but I think you'd be happy to get that thing home and realize what you had. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important to get these like images in your, thank you for picking that up, Lori. Yeah, I found a stack of Rick Riordan in the back. Apparently, I set them to the side thinking that I was trying to complete the sets. And then I was just going to push it as a set. And then I started doing this show. And then I found them. And I was like, you belong together. So, I don't know. All right, Ian Fleming. We did Ian Fleming. So he did good. Good job, Ian. Let's put you to the list. Z to A, right there. Let's do... Grats on the bronze, Dodds Tiff. You have a graphic novel written by a convicted murderer? That's rad. Little Trees, what's that? If you're still in the room. Sorry I didn't see that sooner. Who wrote that? I want to know! Sorry, I have that old song in my head. Conflicts with the My Morning Jacket that's playing right now. This gal, Sherilyn Kenyon, let's look up her. I found a couple of her books. They're like fantasy oriented, like high fantasy, epic fantasy, I think. And there was like multiple series that I found. I think I got 3 orphans in the shop. Let me put one of them on flash sale. Oh, I've only got the one in here. Okay, but we'll do that. And it's a book 8. Born of Defiance. Anyway, we'll do it. We'll. I said I would. We'll do. Maybe we'll look up authors that I have in the store that aren't on the list, and then until we get all of the authors, and then we'll just run like one book from that author on flash sale while we do it. I think that could be fun. And then, guys, we're gonna plan to be on for about an hour. I might make this like a daily thing. I'm gonna try to make it a daily thing. So let's just do that. I think I did that right. 75 cents off. I meant to do $1. I'll do it better next time. Sherilyn Kenyon. Let's look up her. So same process. Let me make sure. Let me just copy paste this to make sure I'm spelling this right. All right. And then we'll hit enter. We'll see what she's about. Good morning, Cornbread, Headley, TT, Bookish Betch. Is that supposed to sound the way that I said that? Is that a play on words, as it were? I dig it. I dig it so much. Okay, so we got to make sure we're in the book category. And I never hit apply. If I ever get coffee cups made, it'll say I forgot to hit apply. So this is a pretty low sell-through rate. And that's not great. So remember 7%. Let's go see how many listings she has out there. And about 6,000 listings. That's not very good. Now, I want to be clear. When I say that's not very good, that is not reflective of the book itself or the quality of the book itself. There are many, many books that are absolutely fucking fantastic that are not popular. So please, I'm purely talking about an ability to move a book on to the next person, specifically for the situations where you cannot take everything in the house. And you have to make value-driven decisions. Does that make sense? If you can take them all, take them all. But again, we go to the Goodwill bins a lot, probably 2-3 times a week. And And I love my scanners. They're very nice folks, but man, they grab like crates of books and they just scan them after the fact. So if I don't go in there and I'm not just grab, I have to be faster because I'm not sitting there scanning every book. Every book I take out of that bins, unless I miss a condition issue, generally is coming home with me. Even the staff up there calls me the book guy. It's pretty funny. They're really sweet. I really like that place. Anyway, so who's Sherilyn Kenyon? Let's kind of see, let's see what her solds are about. And she's got some expensive stuff. Oh, that's an active. Always looking sold when you look through the bolos because you want to make sure that money is actually exchanged hands. You know what I'm saying? I could list this fork on eBay for $1 billion. It doesn't mean it's $1 billion. You know what I'm saying? A price is defined as the money someone's actually willing to spend. So let's check this out. So she did the Dark Hunter series. Are you guys familiar with this series? She did Chronicles of Nick. I'm not familiar with this either. Gosh, she's written a ton. So signed limited edition. So while we have those bolos pulled up, let's make sure that we also go over to the other category. I didn't hit apply. Yesterday that there would be books listed, and so really low sell through, 4%, only 2 sellers. Oh wow. He wrote it and they offer his girlfriend almost like how he wrote it in the graphic novel. There was a Netflix show on it too. It's called Syndrome. Good morning, Cassie. Good to see you, friend. I'll have to look that up, dude. I've never heard of that before. Here, I'll write it on my little spreadsheet. Okay, hold on. Syndrome. Little trees brought. Oop, I got it. There's a T in your name. Brought it up. Apparently a graphic novel written by a serial killer, which has also made some sort of appearance on Netflix. Okay, it's on my list. Have you read all the books I sell? God, I wish. I wish I had the ability to like grab a book, whatever it is, and just go, wah, 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 wah. So, unfortunately, no, 10. What do I like to read? I like to read more hard-hitting stuff. I like the classics. I'm reading Ham on Rye by Charles Bukowski right now. I'm almost finished with that. Before that, I read The Plague by Albert Camus, which before that, kind of that vibe. The Long Road, I think, is the one I'm going to read by Cormac McCarthy, which I don't understand how I've not read that book yet. But yeah, kind of the heavier, hard. Yeah, Cassie, no doubt. No doubt. I've read a lot of fantasy fiction growing up, a lot of sci-fi. But I do find as I've gotten older, I kind of have, I'm going into the Hemingways and Orwell and Faulkner and kind of vibe. So you need to, it's on my list. I've got a paperback copy of it over there. We can read it together. It's by Cormac McCarthy. It's apparently like the saddest fucking book ever made. Is what I've been told. So, I got to read it. I got to have myself a good existential cry and stare at the corner of the wall and try to figure out the point of it all. And I'm only slightly kidding. Anyway, I do like the more heavy hitting stuff. And even when I read like more sci-fi stuff, and I still read sci-fi, don't get me wrong, just not as much. I tended to lean more towards the dystopian representation of the universe, the brave new worlds of the world. I'm also trying to catch up on my like classic Greek philosophers at the moment. So, but I'm no gatekeeper in any way. I will read anything, everything. I've read romance. I'll probably read a book or two. Okay, so more of the same over here. Let's look at these bolos while I'm rambling on. Yeah, but I'll read anything. If a bunch of people tell me something, like a bunch of people who know me tell me that something is really good for me, I'll probably read it. I read a lot of nonfiction too. I never know what the ADD is gonna let me stick my teeth into, and I sometimes don't get to decide. And I've learned not to fight them too much. The little ADD demon. Ooh, these are signed. These are beautiful. Strange Lit Publishing. I've never heard of that publisher either. from Georgia. It's pretty. Pretty. Came with cards. Books are like turning more like into comics every day. Yeah. The ones that know you well enough to recommend. Yeah. There's and I don't say this like creepily. I say it in the truest sense of the word. That's like an intimacy that is kind of special. To grok before Elon appropriated the word, so it doesn't really have any photos in this listing. But if you can get the whole 27 books together, you can offload them for, a lot more than what you could probably get for them individually. So what are these? We'll look at this last Sherilyn Kenyon. These are really neat. Chronicles of Nick. Who's Nick? Nick, what's your deal? Inferno, get it? Invincible. As soon as I said the word invincible, I should have a button that I can hit to have the Robert Kirkman Invincible logo pop on the screen like they did that running gag. I don't know if you guys have seen that show. It's absolutely amazing. I recommend. Illusion. Does anybody know what these are about? We could look it up. What are the Chronicles of Nick about by Sherilyn? Is that not working for me today? Not today? Okay. I guess we're just not going to do that. All right. So let's move on to the next author. Do you guys have an author? I don't want to pin things. When I pin things, does it really make it hard to read? I don't want to pin things if that's the case. Let us do I have any Michner in the story? Do you guys know who Michner is? He's kind of an old guy too. Not kind of an old guy. He's an older author, like legitimately. Let's put one of these on flash sale. Probably Space. That's probably his older, most famous one. Let's run that as a flash sale. While we talk about Michner, do you come across Tentacles of Dawn by Robert Wilson? I can't say I'm familiar with that. Robert Wilson. Tentacles of Dawn. But I'll look it up here in just a second. Off the top of my head, I don't think I have it in the store, but I will be on the lookout for it now that you told me it exists. Because that's kind of how my brain works. Like, it's weird. As long as I can get it in here, if I'm out sourcing, I'm scanning like piles of, but not scanning beep beep, but like eyeball scanning. Like there's like a speed bump, and I'm sure we all get like a version of this. We may not have ever articulated it, but like something in your head will go, that for something. And I won't necessarily be able to remember in the moment why I remember this thing, but I call it my book speed bump. And I always generally like whatever is causing that book speed bump, as long as I can, source it really cheap, I'm generally taking it home and figuring out why that speed bump went off. So I will add that to my speed bumps. And if you guys, I have a list here as well. If you want me to add, if you guys are looking for anything in particular, I used to have a written list and I lost it. This used to have a lot more people on it. But if you are looking for something in particular, whether it be rare or not rare or whatever it is, let me know. I'll add you to the list. And if I come across it, I'll send you a DM. No pressure. Like if you've sourced it, obviously in the interim, you're not obligated in any way. Cause if you want it, someone else will want it. And it's a neat thing for me. Like I benefit because one, it's always nice to pick something up that's something that somebody already wants, but I also get to learn. And then, cause like I said, if you think it's cool, the chances are that somebody else is going to think it's cool. And then I should be aware of it. I want to be aware of everything. It's like that AI image I use sometimes anyway. But yeah. I just started a collection of Kipling short stories and poems. Cool. I come across Kipling Carissa Broadbent. Why do I know that name? I think I know that name. Let's add her to this list. Let's do Carissa Broadbent next. Carissa Broadbent for you. Oh, you want me to find that? Okay, let me. No problem. Oh my goodness, I need to move you down. There you go. Then I need to come back over here. Cassie. Law 64807. Even though I think at this point I could just write Cassie and know who it is. But you said Carissa. I know that name. And then I will add the notes here in a second. I sent you. Oh, you sent me a DM. Cool. I'll look at that then. Rainn Wilson's dad wrote it. Will you check Rick Riordan, House of Hades, and see it is showing sold for you? It did show quantity of 2, but now just 1. I did have 2 of those books. I'll check for you, Lori. Hold on. I have the Mark of Athena and the Lost Hero. Which one are you asking me about? I don't see a House of Hades. That's weird. I could just make sure it's in your box. I mean, God knows you buy enough from me. Let me write this down. Make sure Lori's box has House of Hades in it. Okay. Did I get all the notes down? Did you come across Tentacles of Dawn by Robert Wilson? Oh, okay, that's what you're saying, Robert Wilson. It's under Soul. Either way, I'll make sure it's in the box. I know I have 2 copies of that. And if it says 1, I wonder why it doesn't come up. That's weird. Who are we looking up? Who did we say? Not Octavia Butler, but Carissa Broadbent. Let me pull this back up. All right, Carissa. What's she about? Again, you got to change it to books. She doesn't have a antiquarian collectible. So when they don't have an antiquarian collectible available in the category, it means that she doesn't have any books listed in that category, which that is a signal. It isn't definitive, but that tells me that this person is a relatively newer author, like brand newer author. Is that accurate or is that not accurate? Again, always double check. But, when data sends you a signal. It's just 1 sign. She's going to be low. She just got... Oh, okay. She's... Okay. Cool. Perf. She's going to be low. Brand new. So let's see where she's at. So first let's look at active. And so she's brand new and just got signed. Then this number here is very believable. Because that means she hasn't had... What this says to me is that this person hasn't been around enough or long enough to have her books filtered down to the secondhand market. Do you know what I'm saying? So people are buying her and they're keeping her on the shelf and they're it's trickling down. So that either tells me that she was really low print to begin with, or something like that. But this is the kind of author that you try to pick up her first editions now, because in 10 years they might be a lot of money because they were low print to begin with. Think about like J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. When that first came out, no one knew anything about that. So the true firsts are pretty rare, and that's why there's one of the reasons why there's so much. So yeah, I love data. I love nerd shit. So she's okay. So she's only got the 700. Let's write that down. Go back over here. So we'll just do 725. Newer author, and you said she just got picked up. Just picked up by who? By a publisher. Okay, we'll find out who that is. All right. So let's find her sale through rate, and then we'll look at some of her bolos. Oh, yeah. Yep. She's a Frida McFadden. Almost as popular. Okay. So check this out. She's suffering from Frida McFadden syndrome. So here's Frida at 54%, but she had like no books on the secondhand market. And we kind of ascertained that for the same reason we were just talking about Carissa, that she just hasn't been around enough, and enough of her books haven't hit the secondhand market, but the ones that do get picked up. So that's how she comes across with a 54%. So Carissa Broadbent, to a lesser extent, is suffering, I think, right? Sucks to be popular, right? Print more books, solves the problem, and you'll make more money as an author. She's doing really well. Like, this is a good thing for Carissa. It means she's like on the precipice of going, So I would pick up all her first editions if you find them, and I would pick up all of Frida McFadden's first editions if you can find them. My aunt who lives in England, this is from Lord Jupiter, Mr. $2 Easton's or whatever it was we were talking about on Monday. My aunt who lives in England sent me Harry Potter first edition. Oh my God, Lord Jupiter. Jesus. Do you still have them? So real quick, real quick, let's do you have a publisher as Bramble? Okay, I think I've heard of Bramble. Let's look at Carissa's bolos real quick, and then I'm gonna. It's in your jeez, Lord. I've never even seen him in real life. Is that accurate? Yeah, I've never seen him in real life. So let's look at these 5 real quick. These are $350 books and up. Wait, am I unsold? I am unsold. Okay. So these are, I bet you anything, these are some sort of like limited edition kind of deal. So here's Carissa Broadbent. These are the dust jackets. Oh my, I just had a book of hers the other day. I had this Daughter of No Worlds. I remember that cover. It reminded me of Elric. Do you guys remember that? It was I can't even remember who wrote that. Was that Michael Moorcock? She reminds me of a female, like at least the art reminds me of a female Elric. You guys remember who that is? I know you fantasy guys got to remember who Elric is. Wasn't it Michael Moorcock? Anyway, I had Daughter of New. I probably undersold it if this is how much they're going. I think I got like $25 or something. Oh, is it you, Cassie? Yeah, okay. Apparently it's really good. There you go. Come follow Books Steve the Book Guy. And it was signed. It had a bunch of shit in it too, didn't it? I remember. It was neat. I found that at the bins. And didn't it have sprayed edges? I don't know. It's cool. This is a neat addition too. Look at this. With the sprayed edges. I was in some other guy's show the other day. He called the edges here text blocks. It was the fantasy show or the fantasy sci-fi show. It was a really neat show, really neat books. I hadn't seen a lot of those, but he called when he would have a sci-fi book come up, and the older ones sometimes will have a different the edges will be a different color, like green or orange or whatever, yellow. And we've been calling them sprayed edges. And this dude, who sounds like he really knew what he was talking about, called them book blocks or text blocks is what he said. So I'm going to have to look that up too. Yeah, so Carissa Broadbent, I would absolutely look anything up. Carissa, or not Carissa, we're talking about Carissa. Cassie, keep that Daughter of No Worlds forever, because if she continues in popularity, that book will only ever go up in value. Not that we buy books for just value, but it helps. When you I'm 42, my wife's birthday is 45. You do, and if you're, a normal human being living check to check like most of us, it can be tough not to quantify things around you like break in case of emergency. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like having any other asset. Let's look. I want to look at these Harry Potter out of respect for Lord Jupiter here to show you how expensive these true firsts are. So of course, even over here, we're going to come down to solds, because you always look at the solds, and then we'll sort by shipping highest first. Yeah. So this is a third printing. This is not even a true first. This is a third printing. Helps fund your book addiction. Yeah. Text blocks are single color edges from what I heard. Okay, Lord. Okay, so it's a block, which makes sense because if it's solid color. So I think we'll call we'll adopt that vernacular. We'll call the monocolor book block. I get text blocks blanked right there. We'll call that the text block from now on, but we'll continue to call the pretty sprayed edges or the artistic edges or whatever. We'll continue to call that. But yeah, these are really expensive. And I would say that they have lost a little value because, J.K. Rowling herself has become a little unmarketable. But man, that's a third print. And for those of you, and a lot of you guys are in here, you guys are probably book people enough to know how to ascertain what print of a book this is. But most books are going to have a line like this in it. It's the lowest number on the line is most of the time. There are exceptions. Sometimes publishers do weird shit. But more often than not, that's how you're going to ascertain whether or not it's a first print. So, but grats, Lord Jupiter, man, that's cool. You're like a book vault. You're like the whole camp at the end of Fahrenheit 451, where they go off and to the people who have books in their heads. You're the whole camp. So it's your kid's inheritance. That's a good inheritance, man. Well played. Well done. And also, good on you for having the foresight to put that stuff away. Yeah, where do you live? Don't tell anybody. Nobody died. No, we're all going to start trying to figure out where Lord Jupiter is. We're going to have like a website dedicated to like people following Lord Jupiter and the things he says in the chat, so we can like get clues and where he might live. It's going to become like a whole like true crime subgenre. Where is Lord Jupiter instead of where Waldo? Anyway. No one's safe. No, I'm kidding. Or am I? I don't know. Depends on how much coffee I've had, I guess. But in all seriousness, that's really cool, dude. That's really rad. If everything goes tits up, I know we have at least one book vault. So that's a good thing. Who do we want to do next? Yeah, the back. In a world. No, I'm kidding. Let's do Rick Riordan. He's super popular. And Lori picked up a bunch of his, or not, well, a couple, bunch 3. Is a bunch 3? A banana's a bunch? There's 5 bananas in a bunch. Anyway, a few. Ignore me. That's my inner monologue. That's kind of how my brain works all of the time. And I try not to let the more messy parts leave my mouth. And sometimes I fail. That was one such time. So Rick Riordan, we're going to do a few more and then we'll probably jet out here. This is probably the last one. We'll probably shoot to do 3 of these a day. And then I'll probably try to shoot to be on for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. And I think I'll just try to do this show a ton. I like this show. And also now I'm all jazzed because I'm going to the bins right after this. Oh, wow. So many. So Rick Riordan's got 20,259. And I said it at the beginning of the show, guys. I'm recording these and I'm chopping out like the dead bits and putting them on YouTube. I'm also going to put the link to this on the YouTube channel. I don't know if I could do it on Whatnot. I don't know if it accepts links, but I know I could put it in the description of a YouTube channel. So when I do that, I'll kick that information to you guys. I'll put it in the show notes or something. I'll let you know it's there. And then if you want, you can head there and then you can have the link. It'll be read only, but maybe I'll have a page on it where people can put on like notes or something. I don't know. We'll do something cool, but that's kind of where we're going with this. This is going to be like a community document that we'll just add to every day. And then if people have input on it, they can come to the show. And I'm chill and we could change it. And if I've messed up the data and so, but again, just as long as people know that it's not like I don't know how you would misuse this information to get in trouble, but like, just know it's a guideline and then like trends shift. So like we did Frida McFadden a month ago, like it could have changed in a month drastically, even for some unknown reason. So just as with any data from anyone, just understand that there's caveats, Never take anything directly at face value. Books have taught us this. So 20,000 listings. We're going to check the sell-through rate real quick. So 14%, that's pretty good. I mean, that's worth picking up every Rick Riordan book that you find. I don't like the format. I got to change it. There you go. So that's pretty good. He wrote the Percy Jackson series and a bunch of other like adjacent series, right? Adjacent series. Excuse me. Okay, cool. Steve the Book Guy on YouTube. I'm just getting started. I haven't quite found my voice or the format, but ultimately that is what I'm hoping to do. I want to kind of find a way to talk about like all the book stuff, but I want to talk about like why I do the book stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like the concept behind No Book Left Behind, the origin story that made me make the choices that I'm currently making. Love them or hate them, they were what they were. And then also I'm very active on Twitter. I'm not always the nicest guy. Sometimes if you see me outside of the context of a Whatnot, it can be a bit jarring because I can be quite mean. I'm not a huge fan of that guy. I talk a lot about politics. COVID has been a very difficult time for my family because of my wife's health. And so I do a lot of work with folks to kind of support them, because this whole like a disability journey is not new for my wife and I. We've been walking this road for like 20 years. But there's a lot of newly disabled people because of COVID, and they're kind of getting brushed under the rug way more than they should. And it's kind of been a horror show watching it from the book cave, as it were, because, my wife's already disabled. I was already always going to be super careful, right? So I'm kind of on the outside looking in, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the beginning parts of what my life was like when we first realized that my wife's health was not going to get better ever. It's her birthday, by the way. She's 45. She's doing great. But I want to talk about all that because I think it's going to be very relevant and prevalent and probably needed, because there's a lot of like counterintuitive things that you kind of have to wrap your head around when you're dealing with a chronic illness that isn't going to go away, and or most likely isn't going to go away depending on what level of black pill you are. Frosty Center. But yeah, happy birthday, wife. So oh, Lord Jew. Yeah, that one was nice. That one I had forever, and I had it listed on the place that shall not be named. And then I was doing like checking inventory to make sure, because, so you got to look at stuff, make sure you got stuff listed correctly or even listed at all. Turns out I thought I had that thing listed on eBay and I didn't. And so that's when I brought it over here. So that was a nice book. I had that for probably 6 months before I realized it wasn't listed anywhere. I'm a wee bit of a mess, but also the YouTube channel, I want to talk about whatnot stuff too. Like, there's a billion ways to approach whatnot, and some, what are those ways? And we can, like, how do I do the double setup? If you guys have seen the show, usually I have a camera over here and I can turn, it's off right now, teaching people how to use OBS. So we're going to do the YouTube channel. I haven't quite figured out how I want to format it, because I don't have the time to do like editing and script writing. So I kind of just want to go live and just talk. But I don't know. I have that paralysis of analysis problem. And sometimes I don't push forward as fast as I should, because I'm so concerned with doing it correctly that I don't do it at all. And I know some people can relate, and we could talk about that too. But see, and I thought about the Twitch too, and then just, go on, do the Twitch thing, and then just pull the Twitch video down, and then do it on there. And I used to, back in the day, I had a super small Twitch, like less than 100 followers. I used to play Heroes of the Storm, and I used to do amateur commentary for like the little leagues that we had. It was kind of like League of Legends, but like the World of Warcraft version. It is, Cassie, and the sad thing is I know exactly what's happening, and I had it with Whatnot too. For the first, because I was on the platform just kind of figuring it out, and then I couldn't bring myself to like decide on a format, and because I couldn't decide how I wanted to do it, I didn't do it, and then eventually I had to, because this is how I make a living. If I'm not slanging the books, I'm not paying my bills. And of course, Whatnot isn't the only place that we sell books, but it's a huge part of making this whole thing work, and which allows me to stay at home. And that's my whole goal, is save the books just so I can stay home with my wife, And my philosophy is I'm going to save a lot of books, and I'm just going to sell them cheap. Anyway, but it's tough to get out of. Fear helps. Stress helps. There was a moment in this whole book journey where it was all going to fall apart. Like where I was going to have to go back into the corporate world. I was going to have to go back to traveling and just it was just going to create a lot of stress, because my wife has ME/CFS. It's getting worse, not better. And then God forbid I get sick and I get stuck somewhere, and it's just like, it's just not tenable. So we made a lot of really big choices to be able to give this a shot. And it was only in that moment when everything was literally collapsing around me did I finally, like, my brain said, okay, you can do it now. And then we've been, pretty consistent ever since. So I don't know. Maybe I need some sort of like existential crisis to add on to my existing existential crises. So fair bid. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And I'm actually like going to do it's, I have so much to say about this topic that it's hard to like pick one thing and run with it, which is I'm getting ready to do a video that talks about exactly that. Like what is it like having to be a person that must on paper chess move analytically. I must protect myself because I must protect my wife. Okay. It's not a choice. It is a must. Because my win condition is a happy, healthy wife. So I make decisions based on my win condition, right? So, and we deal with a lot of grief. People make fun of us. I get yelled at in public all the time. Now, and I don't get yelled at as much as some folks because I'm a scary brown guy with a lot of hair. I look like a savage beast. And of course, I'm this like little teddy bear, but I look scary when I want to be. You know what I'm saying? And I say that in jest, but like, I think women and get a lot more grief because they're easier targets. And I don't think that's like a controversial thing to say. Like there's a thing, male privilege is a thing. I do go in with the mean mug. And I got a good mean mug. And I can be mean. Like I always tell my kids, like, you rather have the ability and keep it under control and have it when you need it than need it and not have it. So, yeah, I'll fight with folks. And that's one of the things that we do on Twitter a lot is we're deep into that conversation with scientists and doctors, heavily against certain things, which I won't get into here. If you want to know more about that side of me, it'll be, I try to keep it off Whatnot. I try to keep the Whatnot stuff about the books mostly. You have it muted your comment, but I can read it. I have a good resting bitch face and no one mentions the mass. Yeah, no, it helps. Because that's what it is. People who say stuff about that, so they're just a little, I don't want to say everybody because I have come across people that have had good faith questions. For example, I'll tell you a good story and why continuing to mask when you know it's the right thing to do is important because it gives permission to others to do the same. Right. So I'm the place I'm physically the most at besides my house is probably the grocery store because I do still like to shop in person. And the post office, right? Because I literally, when you guys buy stuff, I pack it and it's on my way to everything else in town. So I physically take it right to the post office. It goes right in there. It's no pickup, no nothing. It goes right in. And there's a young lady there and a little Hispanic lady. And she's usually the one helping me. And then she didn't used to wear a mask. And then and she's never seen my face. Like she's never seen my face. She's didn't start working there until after COVID. And until after COVID started. And then I don't know, she had a family member sick or something happened. But one day I came in and she was wearing a duckbill N95. And I of course asked, right? I'm like, hey, if you don't mind me asking, like, what's changed? And she said to me, I was tired of being sick and missing work. And then she said to me, and I almost fucking cried. No shit. She goes, in watching you come in here every day, I know I could. So I want to make YouTube videos about that stuff. I want to give permission, not that we need permission, but you know what I'm saying? Like I want to, it's okay. Like you got to do what you got to do, and like the rest of the world can eat a dick. You know what I'm saying? Because it matters because maybe somebody in her house is not going to get long COVID or not, or maybe they just don't miss 2 weeks of work when they couldn't, a lot of people can't miss 2 weeks of work and still make their rent that month. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing I've noticed. I've noticed way more working class people, the people that know there's no help coming because they've never been helped. Those are the folks that are protecting themselves, knowing that even missing 7 to 10 days of work or however long it might be it's just not tenable. It's not tenable to do that every 3 to 6 to 9 months. People are getting COVID two times a year. Mathematically, it makes no sense. There was I can't remember who put it was like Forbes or New York Times. They actually quantified the loss in productivity hours. Like it's not great, friends. One more reason that AI is going to be a huge problem because they're going to look at the productivity of the dropping productivity of humans. They're going to blame it on everything else but, and then they're going to let AI take your job. You know? So, but I also want to do about that. So how do I, then you guys tell me, like I'm asking, like give me advice. You guys know me kind of well enough to know about, how I tick. Like, how should I just like pick a topic and just run my mouth about it for 3 or 4 minutes and then call it a day? Or should I do something a little more episodic? But see, I don't have the time. So that's kind of off the table. I was going to say, do something episodic with like graphics and titles and, 2 to 3 times per year is what we see in our circle. That's not tenable. It's not tenable. There was a study out of Washington University, which is one of my favorite studies because WashU is like 45 minutes that way. Like physically, I could drive right to its gates. And there was a doctor out of there called Dr. Ziad Ali who did a retroactive data study using the veteran data, which is the largest medical database on the planet. Is our veteran data. The VA, I guess, is what it's called. And they found a statistic, and I can send you guys a link if you guys want, because everything I say is always backed up. I never say anything that I can't back up because that would be dumb. And I wish more people thought that way. But it basically said, once you get to about your third infection, you're running, statistically, about 40% of those folks who've had 3 or more, or at least 3, have some sort of long COVID issue. Like at 30 or 40%, something ridiculous. And then at like 5, it just, the percentages just get worse. So, good morning. Are we talking about your gene jar? We are kind of like, I'm trying to figure out like how to do it. Like, what do I even do? Just because I have a lot of, this is a podcast now. I guess it kind of is, isn't it? So are you saying that I'm overthinking things? That never happens. Oh man, that sucks, Lori. I'm so sorry. My nephew started having grand mal seizures after getting. I am so sorry. And that's and I hate to say it, it's a story that I hear very commonly because I am actively out there trying to because again, I have 20 years of experience of health emergencies and altering lifestyles and accepting things that are unacceptable. Because, when you become disabled, it's an existential crisis because in a lot of ways, your life is not over, but it's definitely not the life that you had probably planned on having. And that it's like a death in a certain sense. And that's a hard thing to wrap your head around. My wife fought getting on disability, payments for years because we just couldn't accept that she's in her 30s and disabled. It was just the plans ain't planning the way they were. So you got to come up with new plans. You know what I'm saying? You got to adapt. And, sometimes you have to accept the unacceptable, because that's the only way you have to include it in your strategery or else your life's just not going to work out. God, Lori, that sucks so hard. I've had several problems myself lately unrelated to COVID. I'm sorry, Lord Jupiter. And it's just tough. I saw a clip the other day. What was I going to say? Speaking of that kind of stuff, Lori, I just had a friend have a heart attack. I had a friend who got diagnosed with cerebral small vessel, and these are people I know in real life, not just online. Cerebral small vessel disease, and is on Alzheimer's medicine at 48. Another friend of mine just had a massive stroke. Like people are dropping, and these were in the stroke and the heart attack. Those gals were healthy as a horse. They were both dance ladies, So protect your squish. So I want to talk about that. One of the things that I want to do is I want to do a video that takes common things that we hear when we stand and we say, hey, no, actually I'm just going to protect my health. You can think about it, whatever it is that you want, but this is a choice I'm making. I think there's a lot of misconceptions from people who aren't us that they think about us. They just think we're because I'm in a mask, I'm afraid. And I'm if you've known me for any sort of time, I will fully admit I am afraid of things. We are supposed to be afraid of things that go bump in the night. It is a instinct that is honed over a millennium. If you're out in the dark and you hear a bump, your adrenaline shoots everywhere because a tiger is about to bite your ass. Do you know what I'm saying? It'll bite your ass. So it is a good thing. Now, panic is an entirely different thing. Panic is bad because in that exact same scenario, you're in the jungle, you're in the dark, you hear that thing bump in the night. It's almost certainly a tiger, and you freeze and you just stand there, and the tiger just strolls out and goes, lunch. A little fear might, there's a difference between fear and panic. It's insane not to fear the consequence of something that can actually hurt you. And then the reasonable reaction to that, I'm afraid of a tornado. We've had tornadoes all up and down the Midwest. I am afraid of a tornado, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to just panic. I'm going to go get a hands-free solar-powered radio. I'm going to make sure I have the right insurance and hope to God it pays through, which is always iffy. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make sure that I have some water, some bottled water in the house and things that you can do to kind of take your, they say be prepared, not scared, but you have to first be scared to get prepared. And then being prepared. So like if it's a math number on a character sheet in a video game, like you have a fear level, right? And then once your fear level gets to a certain point, you act. You do something, and then your fear counter goes down. That is the appropriate use of fear, right? If you let it peak to 100 and it peaks and then you panic, things go bad, you freeze, that's not where you want to be. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you're not scared, you're broken. That's coming from a nurse. Amen. So true. So that's all I'm saying. So a reasonable reaction to the continual spread of a disease that is not going to get herd immunity, that is known to wreck your brain, your cardiovascular systems, and everything else. The reasonable response is to minimize infection. That's it. In whatever way that you can within your context, because everyone's context is differently, while at the same time making sure that you're not needlessly endangering society, because that's the moral thing to do. Right. So that's what and I want to do content about that so I can encourage folks that have decided to make this decision. How do we exist in this new world? Like, how do we navigate it practically? Because that's what we have to do at the end of the day. Like we can advocate for change. We can try to educate, but until that happens, we have to exist. You know what I'm saying? And we have to get to an existence that's somewhat sustainable on a chessboard that isn't necessarily friendly to our win condition. So if you ever see Spillover, who did Spillover? I got to look up the cover. So we're going to look up this cover, but then I do got to get going. It's 8:00. We're doing good. Vaccinated or not, minimize. That's what I'm saying. I don't even care what someone's vaccination status is. I mean, statistically, it's better to get it than not, depending on your certain health things. None of the conspiracy nonsense is true. Talk to a competent doctor. Chances are it's probably in your best interest to get vaccinated. There are certain specific things that might preclude someone. If you don't like mRNA vaccines, they also have a protein-based vaccine called Novavax that is working through approvals. It should already have been approved, but we have MAHA folks in charge now, so it's an issue. Quammen, is that who wrote it? Quammen? Let me add this to this. So, but the key is to minimize infection. I mean, it's just physics. And I even tell people, even if you are vaccinated, it reduces the prevalence of long COVID, but it does not stop it. But even then, like your vaccine or even your natural immunity will do better if it has to fight less virus. Because another thing that I don't think people considered is like it matters how much viral load that you receive, right? Like if someone sneezes on you full in your face and you just eat it, like you got that. Think of it like an invading army force, right? The virus has a certain amount of soldiers that it was able to penetrate your defenses, and now it's got to go to war with your immune system, and you're the prize. Right? And then your immune system does immune system things. And depending on how hard it has to go, it depends on how hard your life is. You know what I'm saying? But same scenario, and you have a mask on, a KN95 and N95 or better, you're likely still going to get sick. It's a KN95, not a P100. You know what I'm saying? You still have your eye sockets. You still, and you know, your seal on your mask is probably not going to be 100% perfect because you probably didn't get it fit tested. I don't always fit test it, even though I should. But if all things remain equal, it's going to stop some of it. So if the baseline army is a lesser amount, mathematically, you're likely going to have a better fight. Do you see what I'm saying? It's nuanced. It's not necessarily like I wear a mask. It's just edging the risk probability in your favor. So, yeah, exactly. A surgical mask. It's not perfect. Like like if you're in a room with no ventilation and the air in the room is so saturated with CO2 that you're literally breathing in the person next to you's breath, mask ain't going to help you. It's just not. You need to ventilate that room, not be in that room, or wear something serious. Opening a window is actually an amazing increase in helping, change the air out in a room. So, but yeah, I've done this in a pinch. You just got to do what you got. Anything that you can do to not let as many enemy soldiers in is the way to go. Absolutely. And Cass, you're absolutely right. And it's what I try to tell everybody, because like one of the things that I hear, masks don't work. I'm like, yes, they do. But what's your expectation? What does work mean to you? Because they do work, but like, again, they're just not for every situation. They're not a bulletproof vest, unless of course you're in that hazmat 4 suit. And then, do you remember that movie Outbreak? Oh gosh, who was in that? Rene Russo, and who was the guy? Not De Niro. Anyway, you guys would probably remember. But I think Kevin Spacey was in that one too. Anyway, it was with the monkey. He ripped his suit and then he got sick like that. That was scary. That was like a BSL-4 kind of scary thing. Same with vaccines or condoms. Yes. So anyway, I want to do content on that, but maybe I just, going back to why we're even talking about this in the first place. Sorry about that tangent. And I know people have lots of feelings on that too. My position is always coming from a place where everybody wins. The more people we can bring across the finish line, the better. But yeah, so maybe that's maybe I just, pick a topic and it's just, hey, I think this thought about this, and then just, that's the video. Explain the thought for like, a couple of minutes or however long it takes to explain the thought, and then just hit end. Maybe that's the, on condom. I mean, you're not wrong though. Like I was a young man once. I've had my share of scares. I'm glad they were scares, and they would have been certainties had it not been for the risk reduction in using said device. So, but anyway, guys, I am going to wrap that up. This is kind of the show. We're going to look at book stats and just kind of go wherever the conversation goes. Real quick, we do have the other shows. I'm going to show you these graphics real quick. Check out this graphic. This is the show that we do probably Friday or Saturday. We have about over 200 listings in this one already. This one's actually going to be on, oh goodness, clicking all these buttons here. We're having this show on Thursday. Oh man, buttons. And then we're going to do cookbooks on, I think, Saturday or Sunday. So 2 more, and this one has about 120 listings in it so far. And then this one is already over 200. So, X handle, it's Steve the Book Guy. I'm Steve the Book Guy everywhere you want to be. That's what I tell people. Still didn't need to do it. You know what? I will start to put that together. So generally my process is when we want to do like a topical, show, I'll just grab like a crate, slap the name of the show on the crate, and I'll just start putting books in that crate until we get enough to do a show. Yeah, Lori, is it, what am I checking? I could check it now, just in case I have a question. I'll do it off screen in case you're saying something private. Hashtag respect. Messages, what's it say? Oh, I have a signed copy in there? Yeah. No problem. Yeah, I'll make sure you get the good one. Always. Yeah. Not a problem in the world. It'd be my pleasure. I may not even realize it was signed. So yeah, guys, I like always look through. There's goodies everywhere. I'm speed. Things are gonna get through. Yeah, and I'll go do that right after the show. But anyway, guys, that's all we have. I'm going to say bye. We have the show Thursday. We have shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. They're all going to be over 200 listings. Next week, we're going to do a photo and ephemera show and a comic book show. I have lots and lots of comics. We do comics too. So, and I love to talk about politics and comics too, because there's a lot of political topics in comics, especially the older ones. So, thanks for hanging out. Let's see who's awake. Let's raid somebody. I like the raiding. It makes everyone so happy. And it gives you like that big jolt of energy. Ooh, the book nerd. We know the book nerd, don't we?